Now that we've used the coverage period overview report to set up what's going to be covered, now I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Plan Designer Browser tab. To get out of our report preview, we're going to click Cancel or the X here. That will close the preview, and we'll want to close that report menu as well and get us back to the dashboard. Now, some of these reports, your coverage period overview, we're going to talk about current versus renewal. May make sense to have some of these already open so that we don't have to actually create them on the fly. We can just click over to the browser tab we need for each report. So now that we've reviewed the coverage period overview report and come back to the dashboard, now there's some reference to how things are organized based on how we walk through that coverage period overview report. All right, so now we can explain, here's the dashboard where we actually have the plan design information built in. And even from the dashboard, we can see what we're going to be covering here today. So here's that current dual choice. We're going to look at the detail on that, our renewal, the renewal adjusted to budget, and our alternate plans using the HSA. All right, so we're going to explain that. We're going to focus on the employer cost. We can always bring in the total cost when we need to, but for right now, we're going to focus on just what the employer cost is for each one of those options. All right, so by using that coverage period overview report, it allows us then when we go to the dashboard to have a frame of reference of what we're actually looking at. All right, so now we're going to go to the next step in our presentation best practices, which is reviewing current. Now, this is going to be far and away the most important step in getting your presentation off and setting you up for success. So in looking at our presentation best practices, we've discussed the coverage period overview report and how it sets up an introduction to how the dashboard is laid out. Now, the next step we've talked about being an important step, and that's review of current. So this is all about the idea of introducing and really coaching our employers in an efficient manner on how to look at things in Dynamis. This is really where we want to bring them up to speed on how things are going to look and feel in Dynamis. And for obvious reasons, current is a great place to get that started. Now, we noticed that those that took that additional time to really make sure employers understood current before going forward, that was a key part of the successful presentations. When people kind of rushed through current and the employer wasn't sure how everything was organized and what they were looking at, that's when it tended to be a more disruptive type meeting where there wasn't as much flow to it. So we're going to talk about reviewing current, and here's your bullet points. We've got our overview, coverage diagram. This one's underlined, premium share, impact points, combined enrollment. So these are all points we want to introduce in current in an efficient manner to, again, bring employers up to speed on how to look at things in Dynamis. So I'm going to go back to the sample employer. So we've come back from the coverage period overview. We've explained how these correlate to those options we just reviewed. All right, so now we want them to understand the idea and get them used to the terminology of things. So we're going to explain that each one of these blue bars is a group. We call it a plan group. It's like a folder, and each one of these plan groups is going to have plan designs underneath it. So first step is we're going to open up current. All right, so now we want to use this current plan group to really bring them up to speed on the key points they need to be aware of when reviewing plan designs in Dynamis. So I think an important place to start, especially in a case like this where we have more than one plan design in a group, is to understand that each one of these tabs represents a plan design. So in our current dual option plan group, we can see the 2,000 base plan and the 1,000 buy-up plan. If we had a triple option, we'd have a tab for that one. So the key is that we're going to be able to drill into each one of the individual plan designs, and we're going to be able to see what the employer cost is for each individual plan design, but the combined cost, or what we call the plan group cost, is always going to be on the blue bar. So while we're going to be able to go in and make changes, if it impacts the cost, we'll see that impacted not just in the plan design cost, but in the plan group cost as well. So again, it's understanding that whole concept of plan designs making up plan groups. All right, then we're going to want to walk through that plan design and get them used to looking at those. So maybe we start with that coverage diagram and the idea that we're going to have that coverage diagram for all of our plan designs to give you a visual layout of how that deductible coinsurance out-of-pocket max for that plan design works. All right, we can toggle to family by clicking on family. We can look at any enrollment type. But the idea that especially as we add plan designs that have funding, this is going to really allow us to see how those different moving parts all come together relative to our medical plan. All right, so we've got the coverage diagram. Then we're going to come up here. All right, so the left really represents our benefit information. So we want to recap the benefit plan. So again, we've got a $2,000 deductible, 80/20 to 5,000 plan here. We can click on medical plan and show the copays. We've got an urgent care and emergency copay. We also have a 4-tiered RX card. All right, so we've got the benefit, high-level benefit overview. Now that we're presenting, you'll see this is why we don't, have every line item of a plan design. We want to be able to just have those key components that separate one plan design from another to simplify this conversation. So we've got our 2,000, 80/20 to 5,000 base plan. Over on the right, we're going to have our financial information. So here's our premiums, but we're going to want to make sure we take time to point out to the employer the importance of this section right here, premium share. And the idea that premium share is a part of all of our plan designs. And why we do that is so we can look at things beyond total cost and look at things beyond just total cost and get to how that cost breaks down between employer and employee. So in our case, we have a 70/30 premium share. We're able to see what the employer dollar contribution is and what the employee monthly cost for that plan is. All right, so I like it when our Dynamis clients talk about the impact points with the employer and really set up this conversation by letting them know that as we go forward and look at different plan designs here, we're going to want to focus on a couple of key impact points. The first is going to be the employer costs, which we're going to always be able to see very clearly in the plan design and the plan group as well. But beyond that, we're going to want to focus on these two green shaded columns in that table because they really summarize high level how employees are impacted by plan designs. So the first column is going to be relative to how much out of pocket they have. What's their financial risk in terms of claims? And right to the right of that is going to be the other way they're impacted financially, how much they actually have to pay for the coverage. So as we go forward, instead of just looking at total cost, we'll be able to see how our plan designs and any changes impact not just the financial impact of the company, but how employees are impacted as